Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is
Soon
our
to be
last meeting
last
of
meeting
the
of the
year.
year. How do you like that? Our first year.
I know.
I think it's time for reflection. But before we do all of that, I take it there is no comment from the public, since there's no public here this morning.
Well,
Everybody's on vacation.
Ed is here.
Well, yes, but do you have a comment?
I'm
No.
just a public-private partner.
Just a listener. And Maggie, what is there that we should know?
Cold out.
Other than it's about 10 degrees.
I have a series of action items for you. If you have any questions on them, we can go over that. I have one executive session personnel issue that I need to bring you up to speed on, so we can end on that. Other than that, it should be a very brief meeting. I do have budgets to hand out for our first meeting, because we start very long meetings starting
The 6th.
the 6th. And before I do, did you get, and everybody have, because I didn't bring it in, Mark sent electronically the schedule. So if not, I'll take a moment to go
you
print
did
them out.
send that, the revised
Okay.
schedule.
So, and here are your, Bill, he gave you yours.
Yeah, here,
So I'll just hand these out for the next.
You haven't added any.
Yeah, this is what will be reviewed on
Next Wednesday.
next Wednesday.
I have a question about, we had said last year when it came to the COLAs
Mhm.
that we would review in January.
Yep, and Mark will be prepared to
and
discuss.
he'll be prepared to discuss that.
Good. Okay. And there's nothing else.
No,
At
and
this
unless
point.
you have questions on this, I do have one personnel issue. I need to bring up an executive session, so we'll
Okay.
end with that, and then we can end the meeting.
Okay, I'll move these.
I have a couple questions. Number 4. It's just that I don't understand. Broadcast Signal Lab?
Mhm. It's a $7,000 contract with the Cape Cod Commission. So it is in the folder
Okay.
for professional and technical services.
Okay. And then,
May I ask, just add something? We go through this on a periodic basis, I think, where we set up accounts and set up contracts. We're still responsible for signing off on contracts with the Cape Cod Commission, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then the 11th is appointing 4 members to the Human Rights Commission.
Correct. The names are in there,
Okay.
and that's an excellent. This is your opportunity. If you have, they're your appointments. They make recommendations to you. So if they're acceptable to you, you approve them. If you have alternatives, you can send them back if you require additional information. If you'd like them to come in, since January is just a very tough schedule for people to come
Right.
in. I can have them ask Beth to come in, but then the names of them, I just looked at them, can't remember one of them. But
John
there are
Reed is
4
one
in
of
there.
them. And I think, John Reed, I think, is one of them. And John Reed is
Can we just hold that out for maybe a
Right.
discussion?
Sure.
And we
That
can
would be
approve
great.
the rest?
I agree.
So you made a motion to approve maybe all but no, item 11, and will we hold that for discussion?
Sure.
Would that be
That would be fine.
okay?
It's
To
acceptable
your,
for
it's
making
your
a
motion.
motion.
Then I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. So, sorry about that.
Okay.
People are.
Is there anything
Yeah,
else?
well, yeah, I just thought maybe if you could pass that piece that's in the folder around so we could look at the Human Rights
This one
Commission.
here should be signed
appointments.
by Jack Reed, right? It says registry.
Missing signature. Missed signing on 12/16.
Okay, but that's
No.
not,
This is you.
this
Why
is
isn't
all
it?
3 of us?
Yep. You didn't mean to give this back to me. Thank you. It's attached.
Excuse me, Mr. Director. Borrow your pen. Thank you.
All part of the service.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, what happened to the, of course you don't know, but we need inserts in these. None of them have any.
Okay, no, I didn't know that. I'll have them repaired.
Thank you. Okay, so, Madam Chair, are we going to discuss item 11?
Yeah,
Yes.
can we discuss that?
Once it's
Yeah,
pulled,
yeah.
it's in here, so when you,
Okay,
when
can
you
you
pull
find
that
that?
out.
Thank you. congratulations on the item in the paper. That was really nice.
Thanks. We're quite ready to make a press announcement.
Okay, the 4 nominees,
Mhm.
or the 4 recommendations, 4 people. Paul Houlihan, who's from Sandwich.
Mhm.
We know Paul
Yeah.
Houlihan. And he's nominated to fill a 1-year term for departing Commissioner Rosario Gomez Nixon, who
Mhm.
resigned as effective next week, or tomorrow, or
The
today,
1st.
Friday the 1st.
Right.
And so his term would begin January 1, 2010 and end December 31st, 2010.
Mhm.
And then Camilla de Oliveira, John Reed, and Steve Whitmore are nominated for 3-year terms beginning January and ending December 2012. So I have no questions about these individuals at all. I think they'll be excellent additions to the Human Rights Commission, including Paul Houlihan.
Mhm.
I think he would also be a great addition.
Would you like me to have them scheduled after your January schedule in February? Come in to meet with you?
I think that would be a nice
Mhm.
idea.
I agree.
And maybe Jackie could come with them and,
Sort of talk about
Yeah.
the year ahead and their plans and that sort
but
of
I
thing.
would move to appoint those 4 individuals, Paul Houlihan, Camilla de Oliveira, John Reed, and Steve Whitmore, to the Human Rights
I'll
Commission.
second that. And so if we're in discussion now,
Mhm.
I want to say how delighted I am that John Reed came forward.
Yes.
I've known him for years. I really have great hope that the Human Rights Commission with John Reed on it is going to really move that forward.
Mhm.
So,
So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I guess we
I
are.
could sign that as well, since it's here. I don't think it does need
Do you have any comments about our year gone by?
I agree with Paul Krugman. It's the year of the zero.
Zero?
The zero.
I wouldn't have put it that way.
Well, he said if you go back 10 years and look at where we were 10 years ago, we're exactly where we were then.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Only,
saw that Krugman column.
Did you read that
Yeah,
Krugman column?
Yeah. I read, you got to look at Maureen Dowd today.
well, I haven't looked at her yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Well, as far as we're concerned, though, in our world,
Yes, that was the world I was speaking in.
you're
I'm only in my own world.
You're not global.
Yeah, well, I am,
No.
but not this morning.
I think we've made good progress this year. I think we've established some very good goals. Obviously, achieving those, they're long-term, they're really not short-term goals, particularly in the area of regionalization. It's now a word that no one's afraid to say.
That's right.
As they were before. And moved into areas where I would never expected it to even be talked about, which would be public safety and education. So that's a good thing. I think more people know what county government is than they did
I do
perhaps a
too.
year ago. I particularly find it more understood on the Lower Cape than on the Upper Cape.
Yes.
There are some towns on the Upper Cape that you still don't even hear often enough the word county.
Right.
Whereas you go to the Lower Cape and everybody talks about the county.
That's because I talk a lot down there.
Well, maybe that's what it is. maybe you should move to Falmouth and I should
Yeah.
move to Wellford
Yeah.
or something like that.
Right.
No, but I think that I think in many respects it's been a good year.
I agree, and I do think that there is a more positive feeling about the county as in the minds of people. I do think that people do have more of an awareness of it. And I think that we've moved some things. You know, I was looking back at my campaign, my stumping there, my 4 goals, and I think we shared some of those.
Mhm.
And it was wastewater and the environment and human services and the overall functioning of the county government going forward. And I do think that we have work there this year ahead of us as far as how do we want to restructure some things to make it more functional. Get people in, get some consultants in to help us look at our departments and our systems, our delivery. And but I think that as far as wastewater, I mean, this was a good year for wastewater and a bad year for wastewater. It sort of went back time with, Barnstable had that difficulty that, they sort of pushed forward to get stimulus and they didn't have all their ducks in a row. Chatham did because they had this very long-term planning, so we could see the benefits of those. And yet then there are people who are, the last-minute people coming to the table who say, there's another way of doing this. We don't have to spend this money. And, for 10 years we've looked at all of those things. And there's certain solutions that have to go forward. So I think that people are coming around on that. I do think that with our plea, I've talked to a lot of boards of selectmen, basically the outer 8 towns, and they're very in favor of maybe sending a selectman to the Water Collaborative as a representative, because they do realize now is decision-making time and they got to be up to speed, such as, where Falmouth was and is in the big scheme of things. So I feel that we'll push forward on this, and we have, as you say, lots of work to do. But
well, I think in terms of the wastewater, we had a selectman in Falmouth years ago, in the late 80s and very early 90s, Nathan Ellis Highway, of that vintage Ellis. And he used to say, as long as there is a breath left in a taxpayer, nothing is ever final. And he used to say that all the time. And I think of that particularly in the wastewater issue as now, at least in the town where I live, all of a sudden there was this public outcry that we don't have enough information, or all of a sudden you take a bold action and then people say, oh, I wasn't following that. Well, I'm not sure I know everything I need to know about that. So I think what you do is what the Board of Selectmen in Falmouth decided to do, which was to take time and have a public facilitator come and do far more public outreach, so that people really begin to understand, because it affects every single person in the town. I mean, every homeowner, every business. So taking that time, I think, is important. I think that's something that we need to keep in mind too, as we move forward on county issues.
We need
to make sure that the public process is very thorough, and that people have the opportunities. But you're right, though. Legally, have you met all the requirements for the public process? Yes. Absolutely. The notifications, the notices of public hearings, all of those things. But sometimes it isn't until the last breath that someone says, I didn't know anything about that, or I read a book and it says we should do it this way. And there you are.
The other thing is that we have to keep in mind that we live in a transient, people move in and people move out. So there's always a new group of people who might be living here they just come over the last 2 or 3 years, and they really have not been paying attention to this.
That's true.
And
that happens.
That education has to be constant, and that outreach. And, at a certain point you have to say, I'm sorry that you didn't get all that information, but...
well, at some point, yeah, but then you have to look at if it has huge financial impacts like wastewater does, you really kind of have to just take a deep breath and not stop the process. Let the process move forward, but at the same time, take a parallel course, which is to do more public outreach. It doesn't stop. You don't come to a halt. You just develop a parallel process and keep it going.
Another thing I would like to see, I was talking to Rich Delaney the other evening, who is Executive Director of Coastal Studies in Provincetown, and he was the Assistant Secretary of the Environment when the Boston Harbor cleanup went through.
Oh.
And I've also talked with Bob Ciolik and these people, and in the end, after all of that, and they lost the opportunity to access that money because in 1979 or 1978, Barnstable was able to do their wastewater treatment when federal government was giving money for wastewater treatment plants. The following year, they said no. In that year, Barnstable applied for that money. The city of Boston asked for a waiver. The following year, that money wasn't available. And so Boston ended up paying, and this treatment center got put in probably 90% in federal dollars. So that is the risk of letting it lay there for a long time. You lose these opportunities. But when it was all said and done, even with the taxpayers doing this in the billions that it was going to cost and the outcry, and granted Boston has a much larger base of people to spread this out on, but over 40 years, it probably came out to be about $1,800 a person in the long scheme of things. So it wasn't as deadly and as horrible as people, that initial, when you think of it's being spread out and it's being distributed across, everybody's paying a little or something. In the end, it's not as devastating.
Yeah.
So,
Bill.
those are things we have to keep in mind.
It
Yes.
was the best
Hello,
of-
Bill.
It was the
Yes.
best of times, it was the worst of
Yeah,
times.
right.
Oh,
We remember that quote, don't we?
yes.
I think that what I've learned over the last year is that there are methods and style that seem to be more successful than others as far as moving agendas forward. And I think as we look at what we're going to be doing next year, I think we have to keep that in mind. Because sometimes, you've been talking about the substance of things. I remember several years ago talking with the librarian down in Howard High School, and I was running on about something that was going on at the county. And he said to me, "Stop." He said, "You have a special interest and a level of insight and information based upon the fact that you're directly involved in it." He said, "The great majority of people, unless it's something going in next door to them, they really don't care. They really don't care." So I've thought about that, a lot, over time. And to the issue of, let's say, getting people to sign up for things or sign in for things. I've been on a housing authority for a long time, and I have to say that when you go to town meeting and you get an almost unanimous vote to support something, and then when you go to build a project, you have 4 people that show up in front of the selectmen and say, "You never told us about anything." It's very disheartening. So as a result, many things that you would think would only take, a couple of years to get done, on average, at least in the housing area, 7 to 8 years to move something forward, which brings me back to wastewater. I think that one of the things that we might have done over the last year that we could do coming up is develop what I would call some one-on-one relationships with the individual members of boards of selectmen. In other words, I had found that when you have a direct relationship with someone, if you find an ally or not on a particular board, you have a better opportunity to discover what the sense of that board is. I think going and making a presentation limits your opportunity to really dig in to find out where the body is as far as what their interest is. And I would say that would be something that I would encourage all of us to do. Because, for example, when I went to talk to Florence Selden over at Chatham, I found a very interesting thing. It was that the cost per average taxpayer in 2017, at a time when all of this stuff will actually be installed, was in the vicinity of it was under $250 a year per taxpayer. So I heard that and said, that brings it down to what I would call a manageable scope instead of the billions of dollars. But I didn't find that out until I talked to her. The other thing was that I looked at, it was a survey, I believe it was it published in the Barnstable Patriot, about the city of Barnstable took a survey of their members with regard to the wastewater issue, and 71% of them said that they were in favor of it, and 71% or thereabouts said that they would be willing to pay for it, providing it was not an override. So that it gives you the sense that at least in survey information where people who are responding, and we have to depend upon that because statistically significant information with regard to policy matters is important. So we have 2 bits of information, some real cost information on the one hand, and some opinion based upon statistically significant survey in the largest community, which I think is guidance.
But I think we really need to look at the different financial models, because if you look back at Chatham, I think what they did, I'm not 100% sure about what I think they did, was they didn't use all their levy capacity because they didn't need to, but yet they took some of it and set it aside each year.
Right.
So that they used the 2.5, but they didn't spend it. They set it aside,
Exactly.
knowing that they were
They
going
did
to
that.
have a sewer project and they would need a certain amount of capital funds in which to do that. And that's why I think the cost now is lower to the citizen, because they set all the money aside over the last
No,
several
he
years.
did an excellent job.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
over
Bill
the
Vinci
last
did a
10
great
years, I
job.
think they have done that.
And-
Most towns have to use their levy capacity because they don't have the funding.
And over the 10 years, there was a constant, what I call a constant pressure at town meeting to pass items that supported the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that there was the education piece that you talked about was there for the people at large. There's another part of that financial model I think bears some consideration. It wasn't 100% betterment in the community where it would be applied. It was a combination of those things. And the combination of those things, I think it makes it more palatable.
Well, the other thing towns have to look at is when their debt retires. Every town has debt that retires over the course of 20 years. And you have to look at when that debt retires and when it then can be reappropriated for another purpose. And I think that's part of the financial model too, the towns have to look at. I know in Falmouth, I think we have a major debt, like the high school debt, retires maybe 2016 or 2017 when you'll be able to use it. And perhaps with more creative funding, you could use the retired debt, maybe a combination of that, maybe the tax rate, and maybe some betterments. I don't know. But you have to look over the next 20 years in terms of the
To
finances.
end this conversation now, I'm sorry.
You want to end it now?
We have to,
Okay.
because we have to go into executive session.
Okay.
Before you do, I did print out, even though you said you had it, a revised schedule for the budget, because in an email, just in case you haven't been following the thread over the holidays, the commission was moved to
Yes, I
January
did get
6th
that.
at noon.
Right.
Right.
So you have their budget in the packets that I just handed out.
Mhm.
But also I want to bring to your attention on our budget, the county commissioner's office. You'll notice the goals are blank. So traditionally, if you remember last year, part of your review is to set those goals.
Right.
So I'd ask you to start thinking and bring with you for the discussion on the 6th, just 2, 3 goals that you want to put forth for you and the Office of the County Commissioners to work on in the upcoming fiscal year. And then if you can give me broad objectives, I can work on, or if you have specific measurable tasks, bring them with you. But if you just have goals and I can work on them on my own and come back to you, depends on how you want to do it. You may have a goal statement and with tasks that you want to accomplish, or you just may want to put forth the goal and I can bring back tasks for your consideration. That's up to you. But we do need to complete that section of the budget. So you have it in front of you and can start thinking about it and working on it.
Okay.
Okay. So you have everything in your packets. The heavy lifting items are the first 3, which are health, environment, facilities, the commission, and then the other are our internal budgets, which you have a little bit more discretion with. And they're all an internal discussion as opposed to departments coming in
Right.
for review.
Okay.
Okay, anything else before
I don't believe so. Is there any questions?
Is it going to be, you might ask Scott Nixon what he's out there.
Well, good day.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well. What can we do for you?
Well, I came here to thank all of you for that lovely party that you guys gave for everybody. We appreciate being invited. That was very nice of all of you to do that.
Oh, that was very nice.
Everybody have nice holidays?
Yes. And yourself?
Good. I still have some young kids at home who still believe in that guy in the red
that's
suit,
what
so that
makes
that's
it
what
really,
makes it fun.
It does make it
Of
fun.
course, the oldest one, who's now a teenager, threatened the other two, don't you wake me up before 7:30? Well, of course, she sleeps until 10, 11,
Right.
you know.
one scene, right?
Remember those days?
Yeah.
Pretty soon we're going to be waking them up to open up the presents,
That's
so we
right.
got to enjoy it
Your
now.
oldest daughter's a teenager now?
The oldest is a teenager. He's turned 14.
Wow.
time goes. So
And how old is your youngest? Your little ones? 9. Okay. so
14, 11, and 9.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. Yes, they'll be all grown up before you know.
I know.
So you only got another couple of years.
You know, the oldest one's already, sitting there going, "Can you drop me off up the street, or do you really have to come in with me?" So, yes, I do. So
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. I know.
So.
So, well, that's great. And
Hello. How do you know?
uh,
Ooh, big crowd today.
we're happy you stopped by.
Yes. Let's just go quickly today. Then.
Yes, we're just about to go into executive session.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well,
for
thank you,
letting me-
and I wish you a happy new year. Well, that was very nice of you to
Appreciate it.
say.
You guys
and,
did a great job, so thank you again. For
Good
doing
to
that.
see you.
All right,
Take
everybody.
care.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, we go
is-
into.
I just wanted to make sure
he
there was
didn't
no
get to ask
question.
his question.
I'm just waiting to see who pops in next.
Oh.
This is kind of like a early morning news show or something.
Yes, I know. We're trying to make it not the View.
I was just wondering how telescoped you think the executive session will be, because I did have a couple of questions for Bill about another matter.
How
But off.
Well, we were going to return to open session after that.
we are not, but he wants to speak to Bill by himself. So, what, 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
You're welcome to go into the commissioner's their office. There's nobody in there. Have a seat and I'll send Bill in.
Yes,
Bill
we'll
on
send
his way.
him in when
Express.
he's
Thank you.
dismissed.
Excellent.
Sorry, we don't have coffee to offer you, but
Oh, that's okay.
I'm
One
sure
of the few
somebody could
vices I don't
scrounge or
have, so-
something.
I do the
I know. So, there's been a motion.
Yes, we
please.
go into executive session to discuss personnel
personnel issues
matters
related under the FMLA.
under FMLA and not to return to open session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See ya.
Thank you.